Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Eytan, thank you so much for coming here and talking about the White Horse. As you know, the village has a very fond spot for the White Horse. It is the oldest continuously operating bar in the village, built in 1892. The original owners were German, and I have to tell you that I can remember the German owner. This will give you my age, 60 years ago.
Wow.
And he was a great guy. I think his name was Hans, but I can't remember his name. And he told me that he had taken 2 trips on the Hindenburg to Germany. When we heard that the landlord, Steve Croman, who had only left prison some 3 months before, had purchased the building in which the White Horse was contained, there was shock, concern. And the local politicians, the protest groups, arranged themselves outside this door. We took a picture for our newspaper, and they spoke with great vehemence. Had the village lost another one of its great landmarks? Who was Eytan Sugarman? Was the big question. Was he a friend of Steve Croman? Was it an extension of Steve Croman? And so I called you, and you were kind enough to come here for a conversation so that the village could meet you. Now, I know you have several restaurants, but the important thing is you are a New Yorker.
Yes.
Where were you born?
First of all, thank you for calling me, and thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to tell this story. Because before I answer this, to go backwards to a lot of what you said within this process, what was regrettable to me was that so many of these groups didn't ask me what I had to say and didn't ask what my intentions were. And I think so many of their fears would have been allayed had they done that. There was a young lady that wrote an article that worked here previously, and I wrote her on Instagram, and I said, I have to ask you a question. I have a public account on Instagram, and my question is, why didn't you simply call me or write me and ask me what my intentions were? Because I'm a very accessible guy. I'm on every social media platform. I have an open page. You can write me, and I write everybody back. And there were some really nice people that wrote me on Facebook. There were a few that weren't nice, but there's some really nice people that write me, and I would write everybody back. And I wanted, it was so important to me that everybody knew that I was going to maintain the White Horse and that I was coming from the place of being a native New Yorker, and I wanted to maintain the heritage of this. So I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm really looking forward to telling everybody my story and the reason that I took this place and what they can expect from the White Horse going forward. So I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, that was a very appropriate answer.
Yeah.
As we were setting up for this thing, we discovered that the television sets on either side of the bar, which have been there for decades, Eytan removed.
Yes.
He brought it back the way it looked, perhaps 50 years ago, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And that is an indication. You did that on your own.
I did.
Nobody prompted you to do that. You brought it back to that.
Yeah.
Now, you have several other restaurants at the present time.
Sure.
You have a pizza place on 80th Street at Amsterdam Avenue. And you have the Hunt and Fish restaurant.
Yeah, Hunt and Fish Club.
Which is at 40th Street.
44th, between Broadway and 6th, yeah.
Now, that's a very famous
yeah, it's a well-known
location,
steak and seafood house.
And it's frequented by celebrities.
Yeah, all kinds of great people there.
Yes. And how long have you had that?
We are in year 5 now.
Year 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things we talked about is how difficult it is to have a restaurant in New York City.
Sure.
Okay. You say it's one of the most competitive cities in the world.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most expensive cities in the world in which to operate a restaurant.
Absolutely.
And one of the reasons you gave is food costs are high, labor is high.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's highly competitive
Mm-hmm.
and very expensive.
Yeah.
Talk about what you think it takes to make a successful restaurant.
Well, all the above is true. Everything you said is very true. And it's reflected in the failure rate in restaurants in New York. And at this point, they say over 90% of new restaurants fail in the first 12 months. So you think about that statistically, and you think about why would anyone enter this business where literally 1 out of 10 succeed a year later. It's a business people enter into, in my opinion, more often than not because they have a passion for it. It's a business that if you're not prepared to put in 70, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks, you shouldn't be in this business. Your friends that work 40-hour weeks, that's not going to be you. This is somewhat of a lifestyle commitment. What it takes to succeed, I think there's a lot of layers to answer that question. I think, to expand a bit on what you said before, I think the reason it's so difficult in this city, it's the competition is fierce. There are 10,000 restaurants in 24 square miles. It's the highest rent in the country. Our payroll costs more than most other areas in the country. Our local government has raised minimum wage to a point in such a small, which I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do, but they did it so quickly that it just didn't give the industry long enough to really catch up. Food costs are up dramatically. I think people are cooking home more than they were. There are all kinds of wonderful delivery services. All this together has made it a difficult time for the industry. The only thing you can do to attempt to assure your success is attempt to come up with a product that you think is good for your neighborhood. You pick a neighborhood, you think what would work here, what is a product that this community would enjoy, that they would attempt to come to a couple of times a week, make the best product possible, attempt to operate efficiently, and honestly that's the best you can do. And beyond that, I use a word that some people in business don't agree with. I believe in this. Luck plays a part in everything we do. I think if you have the magic and things go your way and you work hard and somehow you create that formula that people enjoy, and because it's more than just good food, it's an experience. If you create an experience that people enjoy and they want to frequent and they want to make it a part of their lives, if somehow you can create that formula, maybe you'll be lucky enough to achieve that success. Sometimes people put out a great product and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work. It's a fickle industry.
Now you use the word passion.
Yes.
You have to have a passion
Must.
for the business.
Must.
Well, that's quite an emotional word.
Yeah.
So, will you be here in this restaurant, at least during the first months, to meet the customers?
Oh, I'll be there more than the first months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say passion, is you want to maintain the White Horse the way people remember it decades ago?
I do. Having said that, depends on how many decades you're talking about. I want this to be the best version of White Horse, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. You brought up an interesting point about me taking out the televisions. My thought is the White Horse didn't need to be a place that had televisions. I see televisions as a certain type of a bar. I see that as a sports bar experience. I don't see the White Horse as a sports bar. I see the White Horse as a place where you get a really great selection of beers, some great wines, wonderful cocktails, and a great selection of foods, and in a really comfortable environment. I don't think you need the distraction of sports on the television. I don't see it as, and there's nothing wrong with sports bars. I don't see this as a sports bar. So I chose to remove the televisions. Not everyone liked that. It wasn't popular with certain people. It was with others. That's a decision that I made. I'm sticking with it. I think it's part of in what I see as the new White Horse. So again, it depends which decades you're talking about.
Okay.
The televisions here are a thing of the last 20 years.
All right. Now, you brought in a new chef,
Yes.
and he's English. We always
He is.
question whether
He is.
if you have an English chef. And I came here, and your manager was very generous, and
Sure.
he gave us literally almost everything that was on the
Yeah.
menu to test. And we found it very tasty. And miracle of miracles, last night our food editor came here and had dinner.
Yeah.
And he sent me an email just before I left, and he said, very good.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
And he will give us some more. But tell me, what was your philosophy in choosing that chef and the kinds of foods that you're offering?
I met that chef about 6 months ago through a mutual friend. He worked at a place in Brooklyn that just got reviewed by the New York Times, and he got 2 stars. And I told him about this project, and he was equally passionate about it. He had a lot of experience in this neighborhood. He was chef de cuisine around the corner at Spotted Pig, also chef de cuisine at the Beatrice. He knew this neighborhood well. More importantly, he knew this pub well, and he knew the importance this pub has to this neighborhood. And he shared my vision in what this is and what it could be. And because of that, I thought he was the perfect fit. He's a magnificent chef. He creates wonderful food, and we're putting together a menu that we think is worthy of the White Horse. Previously, the White Horse was known for burgers and bar food. I wanted to elevate it a bit, as you saw. I mean, we have spotted prawns on the menu, and we have a steak on the menu, and I hope people will allow us to expand, the culinary offerings of this place. I think this place deserves it. Over time, we'll see if that's what the White Horse customers want. I hope they will. I think this could be a wonderful dining experience in addition to a wonderful bar experience. Time will tell.
Now, you said something quite interesting, and that was one of the great assets that this bar has. It has this tremendous outdoor seating area. How many seats do you have outside?
78.
78. That's a good-sized restaurant to have that. And that's going to help you a great deal in order to be able to make it. And one of the wonderful things about the village is you have tourists and people strolling all the time. And one of the great pleasures of the village is to sit at a cafe and watch the crowds go by. But what happens in the winter? How are you going to make your nut when you have only, how many seats do you have inside?
We have 55 seats inside, not including the bar. Well, don't think that I don't think about that frequently. This place has survived quite a long time with it being a 4-season year. And we'll just have to survive the seasons just like all the previous owners did.
Now, when I was young and I came here for a beer, it was 60 cents for a porter. What is it today?
70 cents. Beers now range from $8 to $12.
Oh, that gives me a shock. But then the New York Times is $3, and it used to be 3 cents.
Yeah. So.
All right. So trying to make a restaurant like this work in the wintertime is tough because you just don't have enough seating.
Yeah.
And you don't have the kind of seating for easy dining.
Yes.
This is a bar, essentially.
Yep.
And I can remember when people stood 3 deep drinking beers because there was no place to sit.
Yeah.
So that is a problem, and you haven't solved it. You worry about it.
Listen, every owner of every business worries about the potential challenges. So I'm in my first month here. Of course, I worry about what it's going to be. Listen, the end of the summer is a slow month too. I worry about that. I worry about what it's going to be like here in the winter. Whatever it is, we'll work with it. We'll overcome it. And I tend to think that a great product will sell itself. I think over time, people are going to really appreciate how much care we're putting into what we're offering, and hopefully we'll be able to do enough business inside that we'll be able to survive the loss of the outside, and then come the spring and the summer, we'll really flourish.
Well, you have one asset that you haven't thought about.
Tell me.
Yourself.
Oh.
Because you are articulate.
Oh, thank you.
You're outgoing. And so I want to ask, you're now going to be seen by hopefully many thousands of our readers. And your words are going to be in the pages of our newspaper. So you're talking to maybe 30,000 villagers right now. Do you want them to know you? Do you want them to come up and say, "Hi, Eytan, love your restaurant, and tell you what they think about it and perhaps how they think it can be improved.
Very, very much. Very much. I encourage that wholeheartedly. And if they, for whatever reason, when they're here, they don't see me, they can write me on social media. We're going to be putting out comment cards that I will be monitoring. Please engage with me because this is so important to me. And I want them to know that I'm hands-on involved, and I want them to know that I'm accessible to them. So yes, my message is, please, 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 tell me your opinions, good, bad. If there's anything that I can improve upon, please make me the first avenue.
Eytan,
Yeah.
I thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Not for myself, but for the many thousands of villagers
Oh, thank you.
that have been coming here almost as long as I have, but most importantly will be coming here in the future.
I hope so.
Because
I
of
hope
you.
so. Thank you,
Okay,
George. Thanks
thank
for
you.
saying that.